you, and I now give the floor to the alternate permanent representative of Pakistan. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's so good to have this dialogue. It promotes the objective of synergizing our efforts within the peace-building architecture. And it's good and relevant also because it's taking place when we are going to have this 20-year review of the peace-building architecture. And we really appreciate that we have with us the distinguished ambassadors of Mali and Haiti, and to hear their perspective because that is so important. I believe that the discussion that we have had so far, although not interactive as you suggested, but I think it is very, very useful and very rich in terms of ideas, questions, and suggestions. And this reflects the fact that we are discussing issues that are actually complex crises. And to be frank, this kind of discussion we cannot have elsewhere, not even in the Security Council. So I think this is very, very useful. We think that we've come a long way since 2006 when two countries, Burundi and Sierra Leone, were awarded the initial seed funding from the fund, and the long list of countries that are today interested to benefit from this fund. It shows the utility, the effectiveness of this mechanism that was instituted, and I think this is a very welcome development. This has obviously led to high demand and high expectations, and I think it's up to us to see how we can manage that. In this context, I would like to raise two issues and related questions. First, about resources. So it's clear that at least for 2025, there is a gap of $100 million. My question is, what can be done to address this gap? The ambassador of Egypt also mentioned why not approach the IFIs and others. I think the MDBs, the private sector, there needs to be a kind of an outreach to them to see how we can bridge this gap. Because I think this will be important if we want to address the high demand and the expectations. The other thing is, and this is also a question, if we are anticipating any reduction in the voluntary contributions to the fund going forward, because that will also impact how the funds can be allocated. And now that we have this new modality of assessed contributions, are we thinking, for example, at the end of the year or maybe in 2 years, to assess the impact of this assessed contribution modality? So I think that will be something that we'll be interested in. Secondly, also related to this is the question of prioritizing, because this will be required anyway. So we'll have to rely on criteria for focusing the PBF resources. Obviously, we have the Pact for the Future. It provides some guidance. Then we have the 4 areas of focus that are in the terms of reference. So my question is, how are we going to balance, while allocating funds, these 4 areas that are there, which are kind of criteria on the basis of which we allocate funds? And I think that some of the comments that have been made, especially pertaining to the root causes, that relates to the criteria in some way, And also what was just said by the representative of the African Union, that if we broaden the geographic scope or otherwise of the allocation from the funds too much, and if we stretch it out too thinly, then we might end up with some situations which are getting only nominal amounts that might not be helpful as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And